Welcome to Scholar Trading, folks. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications so you do not miss an upload. I want to remind you to check the description below for all of the useful educational content and links to previous videos. So let's get started. On our weekly review of stocks and indexes, wow, I just love being right. I'm sure everybody does. Excuse me. But unfortunately, when I said it was going to be around this box, I didn't expect that giant wick to happen on that trading day. However, the candles have been pretty consistent in staying in there, right? So let me show you on my daily. Like it just closed both bars, created a new imbalance, or sorry, a new gap, and down it goes. That's pretty much it. I mean, so if we take a look at this one, it's just not as messy as my other chart, right? Don't mind, it's a slow zoom still. So this is my only kind of concern. You could see that it wicked off. This entire climb right here was when we had significant news about 2 weeks ago, and it created an imbalance on the 1 hour. And let me just show you what that looks like. Right there. Okay, so because this was created, there's nothing before or after this candle that would, let me just tighten that up a little bit, that would potentially show that it's closed off. So when I see this kind of rejection happen on the trading day, it makes me slightly nervous, right? So not to say that, we're going to reverse and start climbing back up. I'm still bearish overall. This could just be a temporary run, maybe 1 or 2 days to go and catch up, because as you see on the 1 hour, it's extremely oversold, and it's been sitting at extremely oversold for about 2 days. Okay, excuse me. So based on that, I mean, even if we're going back on the daily chart, like it's still nothing. It's coming off of its rejection zone right here. Right, so you can see the incredibly overbought area, and now it's starting to drop back in, right? So when it gets back down to the middle, that's where I'm going to expect a little bit of a pullback. Because if you want to take a comparison, right, look where we were right here on number 4. Look where the RSI is on the daily, right? That is extremely overbought. So sure enough, where are we right now? Extremely overbought, and it's starting to drop. Yeah, so there's that. Okay, when we see just a little bit in the past, right? I just want to show you the only other time previous to crossing this dotted line on number 4, number 2 came close. The only reason that that one worked out nicely was a perfect Fibonacci pullback. But look at 0. Okay, right before 0 happened, you could see the RSI extremely overbought right here, and then right here the candles climbed higher, but the RSI did not. That's divergence. Okay, that's your kind of a first indicator, especially on a daily time frame, that things are going to change. Let's take a look at the weekly quickly. All right, it's not as scary as the daily, right? It's a little bit more tame to see less candles over a longer period of time. All right, so we're sitting right here, and as you can see on the weekly sentiment, like it's just above that 50% mark, right? So here's on the 4, here's on the 6, just above those zones. We haven't been in extremely overbought since 2021, right? So it hasn't crossed that threshold ever since. It's been between oversold and neutral. But I do believe that we will still be dropping down to number 7. That's going to be our new low before that slow climb back upwards, right? And again, it wasn't a very large engulfing candle. It just showed a bit of a rejection this week. All right, so that's not necessarily to say that this move is completely done. Going up, this rejection kind of throws that wrench in the gears, so to speak. But we'll see what happens, right? I mean, it's typically when it's around this territory and it's a big move that's going to come down, it takes a little while for it to go. I'm expecting a little bit of this to happen, right? So it peaked, and then you could see a bit of this happening, right? A little bit of that, and then finally going down. And the sideways play would make sense for it to kind of build up a lot of pressure. Earnings aren't still all in, right? So all the triggers for all these big stocks aren't reported yet. And typically, when earnings come out and one big company reports significant losses or a big dent in their revenue, that is when things start to move. So on February 22nd, and this is what I'm predicting, okay, February 22nd, NVIDIA's earnings come out, right? So you can see them right here. Feb 22nd, estimated 0.81 on the dollar, right? Not huge. What was the previous one, right? It estimated zero point 0.7 and actually reported zero point 0.5, right? Even here, a little bit better, but not fantastic. So they're expecting a much better quarter this time. I don't buy it. The reason being is because major changes have happened in the layout of people buying things that really require a lot of products from NVIDIA, namely Bitcoin machines, the mining machines, right? Computer tech or chips. I mean, it's not as needed right now as it was during COVID, and I think this is going to be the trigger. It might kind of hover around this area a little bit, but that's it. I don't believe we're going to be seeing it go much higher than that. And as you can see here, actually, a gap's been filled right there. All right, so we had a gap fill from way back in April of 2022. And yeah, I believe that this is just going to be dropping. If it does climb higher, that'd be great. I'm estimating it would hit about that 158 mark. But I believe that Nvidia is going to be the trigger. Right? Netflix earnings were worse, not by much. I mean, you know, if we're really going down to brass tacks, I mean, 7.85 billion compared to 7.92 billion. I mean, it's still a ton of money. Granted, they lost what? Man, what's my math on this one? 70 million, right? I mean, when you're in the when you're in the big money like that, that's not a huge downfall. But as you see, every single stock is kind of pulling back slightly. Like Nvidia got hit hard on the RSI there, but I don't see it having such a steep run all the way back down to 160, right? Like you could see these gaps formed on their earnings, and that was intentional to kind of bring it back down to where it's valued at. So it's slowly coming back up. I believe 240, like I said before, is kind of the target there. So, so let's see. All right. What to really look for here? All right. Options really is the only thing that I would be doing right now. I'm not really interested in buying any particular stock except for uh, energy. Energy would be a pretty decent place to put some investments in, I think. Chevron, ConocoPhillips, which is, I love seeing 115. I jumped in on that one, just 3 days ago. So at the bottom of this one, 110. So that's always nice. And the reason being is because, again, it bounced all the way down here. It was in the oversold territory, and it's still in the golden zone for a move upward. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be bullish on oil. Typically, what I've realized that happens is when interest rates go up and economy kind of stagnates a little bit, energy starts to be valued a little bit higher. So I'm not as liquid as I was expecting to be, that I've mentioned in the last two episodes. Yeah, oil is. I just jumped in on ConocoPhillips. Any one of these stocks really are worthwhile. Conoco, Chevron. I don't have my entire watch list here. I'll grab it on my Weeble, but I'm not going to show it to you guys. Ha ha ha. Sorry, but there's some things that I like to keep to myself. All right. So the other ones I like to keep an eye on would be KRP, and that's Kimball Royalty. Very interesting stock on this one, and they pay a pretty decent dividend for what their value's at. MPC, they're doing very well also. Had a pretty good day of 5%, and they just keep climbing. Like this company is very good. Good earnings, but very, very high debt to assets at the moment. However, let's see. Yeah, I would still be interested in jumping in on those guys, right? So we have what we had MPC, we had Oxy, we have COP, we have Chevron, we have Exxon, right? And again, another gain of 4.2%. And this is at its all-time high. So that would make me tad nervous there, right? The other ones had a bit of a pullback, but Exxon just keeps going. So, it's one of the things where I would be just nervous jumping in when it's at that territory, right? It could possibly keep going, right? I mean, look at this, for example. It had a peak and it was the all-time high there, and then it just kept going up. So, there could be a pullback or it could just continue to climb. Exxon has had a very, very good year. So yeah, I mean, overall, guys, this is where market sentiment's at. If you'd like, I'll dive into the meme stocks, but just write it down in the comments. I don't want to be wasting your time and putting up videos that aren't really that interesting, right? There's certain stocks that are more interesting than others, and it's just much worth. Sorry, it's worth your while to take a look at them rather than, oh, let's talk about cat, where not a whole lot of people really have much interest in, even though it's doing very well, right? So cat, I mean, this would have been great, right? Back in September, all the way up here. It's still, what was the climb that we had? 64% from its bottom. Not too bad. But anyway, guys, that's kind of it for stocks and indexes. Um, yeah, leave a comment and don't forget to watch those videos in the description. Very important if you are a beginner to this or if you just like to refresh your memory. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and I'll see you next week.